Margaret, thanks very much. I'm joined by Senator Ken Conrad, the Democrat from North Dakota, Senator Tom Coburn, the Republican from Oklahoma. For 7 months, you all have been negotiating as part of the Gang of Six. The finished product coming out yesterday, Senator Conrad. Tell me what you think this represents. Is it the last best hope for a deficit reduction deal?
Well, I don't know, but it certainly is a good hope in the sense that this has all of the elements of a comprehensive plan to get our debt under control. And that means fundamental tax reform that this country desperately needs, entitlement reform because we're borrowing 40 cents of every dollar we spend, and spending cuts. And it is done in a way that is balanced. Look, there are things that none of us like here, but at the end of the day, this would stabilize our debt and begin to bring it down, and that is absolutely essential for the country.
Senator Coburn, you were in, you were out, you came back in yesterday to back this plan. Tell me why you think your fellow Republicans should be prepared to support this.
Well, it's probably the only plan that's going to ever pass, or some combination of it. And the fact is we have to, with a divided government, be willing to move in an area that actually will get us the savings. This is the first step in a long process for this country to get back under control in its finances. $3.7 trillion is a lot of money, but it's not enough yet. But it will buy us the time, as Kent said, to get us down the road a little further to make additional changes that are going to have to be made.
You had some fellow Republicans in that meeting yesterday who backed this plan, some who hadn't previously. What's your message to House Republicans who thus far have been, at least the leadership, pretty non-committal?
Well, I think they got to look at it, and they got to see the details. It's like they all say, the devil's in the details, and as they see it, there'll be parts of it that they absolutely don't like, just as there's parts of it I don't like, and there'll be parts of it they think are pretty smart. But the fact is it's a compromise. You know, that's something you don't hear often here, but it's a compromise where we get something good for the country, and each side has to give up something that they didn't want to give up.
This is the deal the president has been talking about as well. Tell me where the compromise is on your parts when it comes to entitlements. How does this plan tackle Medicare and Social Security, for example?
Well, there are significant savings out of the health care accounts, Medicare, Medicaid, other health care accounts, $500 billion over 10 years. That's a significant move for many in my party. In addition, we address Social Security, not for deficit reduction. All of the savings for Social Security are to extend the solvency of Social Security itself, which I think is good policy for the country. And look, there are some on my side who are resistant to that, but at the end of the day, it's going to have to be done. And let me just say, where Senator Coburn and I agree, this is a down payment. The hard reality is we're going to have to do more, but this is a good beginning, and it's a critical start.
For those Republicans who say, look at this and say, listen, Tom Coburn's a good guy, but he's backing tax increases in this package. What's your message back?
Well, there is no tax increase. There's revenues that are going to be generated by reforming the tax code. If you go back and look at the 80s, when Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan got together, they lowered everybody's rates and they took away a ton of deductions. We had 4.9% economic growth on average for 4 years in a row during that period of time. It wasn't all related to that, but a good 2.5% of that GDP growth each year was related to the reforming of the tax code. That's what we would hope would come out of this reform of the tax code.
Are you confident House Republicans are going to buy that logic?
I don't know. I can't speak for the House Republicans. What I do know is the country needs us to do something.
Where do we go next from here? There's no way you guys get this done before August 2nd. Tell me how the process works here.
That's something we're going to be discussing with the leadership on both sides. A way forward, I can tell you that we are moving to put in legislative language what we've done. We think that'll take a couple of days because we've done a lot of that already. And then to get it scored, we don't think that'll take very long because of the elements of our program. Much of it has already been scored
That's the
to
price
help
tag
our
from
work.
the Congressional Budget Office for those folks watching
That's right.
at home.
That's right. When you talk about scoring, you talk about the estimates of what the savings are in this plan that are given the official review by the Congressional Budget Office.
But you think $3.7 trillion is a fair number right now?
I think it is. Yeah, I do.
And what about your own thoughts about the next step here? Do we have to pass McConnell, Reid, some sort of compromise just to get past the debt ceiling debate?
I don't know the answer to that. It depends on the timing. My preference would be we go all out to try to accomplish this and you solve the problem. And then you've actually made some changes that the American people can accept. Those that don't want us to increase the debt limit, but now you have significant savings out there. At least they're going to get $3.7 trillion over the next 10 years lower in terms of their debt.
Both of you all are retiring from Congress. What's the risk to this country if the Congress, the president, don't agree on this deal?
Look, ultimately, the country has to face up to this debt threat. If we do not, we are going to have a fiscal crisis. And we don't have to look far away to understand what that means. We can look to Greece, we can look to Ireland, we look to Spain, look to Portugal. We're not any of those countries, but we are rapidly approaching the point of no return on a debt that is too high, that reduces our future economic prospects. Virtually every serious economist agrees on that.
Senator Coburn, you get the last word here. What happens now?
Well, I think we push. We try to build a consensus within the Congress and hope that we can do it in a timely fashion.
All right. Thanks to both of you for joining us. Two members of the Gang of Six. Spent a lot of time behind closed doors the last 7 months, still talking to each other here. We appreciate you joining us here on Bloomberg. Margaret, we'll send it back to you over on the other side of the Capitol.